In the first class, we have seen what is materialism and the development of this thought, materialism, through the course of the history in different lands, and then we are furthering our search with regard to that. Now, there are certain criticism from different areas for this thought, this materialism. From the scientist's point of view, Rudolf Peierls, a physicist who played a major role in the Manhattan Project, rejected materialism. The premise that you can describe in terms of physics the whole function of a human being, including knowledge and consciousness, is untenable. There is still something missing. So Rudolf is of the opinion that the materialism which says that everything is reduced into material. Nothing, even the consciousness and mind, product of the matter. So the premise that you can describe in terms of physics the whole function of human being, including knowledge and consciousness, is untenable. There is still something missing. Erwin Schrödinger said, consciousness cannot be accounted for in physical terms, for consciousness is absolutely fundamental. It cannot be accounted in terms of anything else. Werner Heisenberg, who came up with uncertainty principle, wrote, "The ontology of materialism rested upon the illusion that the kind of existence, the direct actuality of the world around us, can be extrapolated into the atomic range. This extrapolation, however, is impossible. Atoms are not things." Now, from the religious and spiritual views, a criticism against materialism. According to Konstantin Gutelbert, writes in Catholic Encyclopedia, from the religious and spiritual views, according to Konstantin Gutelbert, writing in Catholic Encyclopedia 1911, materialism defined as a philosophical system which regards matter as the only reality in the world, denies the existence of God and the soul. In this view, materialism could be perceived incompatible with world religions that ascribe existence to immaterial objects. Materialism may be conflated with atheism. According to Frederick A. Lange, 1892, Diderot has not always in encyclopedia expressed his own individual opinion, but it is just as true that as it is commencement, he had not yet got as far as atheism and materialism. So from the religious point of view, there seems to be a total opposition to materialism, telling that materialism reduces everything into the aspect of matter, whereas the existence of God, that is the idea, or it is incompatible with the religions which ascribe existence to immaterial objects. So materialism may be conflated with atheism. That would be the general idea. Most of Hinduism and transcendentalism regard all matter as illusion. So here we can see from the religious point of view that in Hinduism, the matter is considered to be the Maya, building humans or blinding humans from knowing the truth. So what is Maya? That is somehow it is a veiled existence. Transcendental experiences like the perception of Brahman are considered to destroy the illusion. Joseph Smith, the founder of the Latter-day Saint movement, taught there is no such thing as immaterial matter. All spirit is matter, but it is more fine or pure and can only be discerned by purer eyes. We cannot see it, but when our bodies are purified, we shall see that it is all matter. This spirit element is believed to always have existed and to be co-eternal with God. Mary Baker Eddy, the founder of the Christian Science movement, denied the existence of matter on the basis of the allness of mind, which she regarded as synonym for God. So we have the objection from the scientist point of view, religious point of view. Now the philosophical objections to materialism. In the Critique of Pure Reason, Immanuel Kant argued against materialism in defending his transcendental idealism, as well as offering arguments against subjective idealism and mind-body dualism. However, Kant, with his refutation of idealism, argues that change and time require an enduring substrate. Postmodern, post-structuralist thinkers also express a skepticism about any all-encompassing metaphysical scheme. Philosopher Mary Midgley argues that materialism is a self-refuting idea, at least in its eliminative materialistic form. Now there are varieties of idealism. Now these are the two things opposed to each other, idealism and materialism. Now we have seen different types of materialism in the course of history, and now there are varieties of idealism. Arguments for idealism, such as those of Hegel and Berkeley, often take the form of an argument against materialism. Indeed, the idealism of Berkeley was called immaterialism. Now, matter can be argued to be redundant as in a bundle theory, and mind-independent properties can in turn be reduced to subjective precepts. Berkeley presents an example of the latter by pointing out that it is impossible to gather direct evidences of matter, as there is no direct experience of matter. All that is experienced is perception, whether internal or external. As such, the existence of matter can only be assumed from the apparent perceived stability of perceptions. It finds absolutely no evidence in direct experience. If matter and energy are seen as necessary to explain the physical world, but incapable of explaining mind dualism results, emergence, holism, and process of philosophy seek to ameliorate the perceived shortcomings of traditional, especially mechanic materialism, without abandoning materialism entirely. So here we see the difference of opinion regarding the materialism, or quite opposed to materialism is the critique from scientists, from the religious point of view, and the philosophical objections. Materialism as a methodology we need to look into. Some critics object to materialism as part of an overly skeptical, narrow, or reductivist approach to theorizing, rather than to the ontological claim that matter is the only substance. Particle physicist and Anglican theologian John Polkinghorne objects to what he calls promissory materialism, claims that materialistic science will eventually succeed in explaining phenomena it has not so far been able to explain. Polkinghorne prefers dual aspect monism to materialism. Some scientific materialists have been criticized for failing to provide clear definitions for what constitutes matter. So it is a matter of contention regarding what is this matter. And therefore some scientific materialists have been criticized for failing to provide clear definition for what constitutes matter, leaving the term materialism without any definite meaning. Noam Chomsky states that since the concept of matter may be affected by new scientific discoveries, as has happened in the past, scientific materialists are being dogmatic in assuming the opposite. Now, coming to the Indian philosophy or our understanding of this materialism, the earliest pointers to materialism is in the contribution of Ajit Kesakambli. So he is the earliest teacher of materialism known to us for Indians. When he was asked whether any appreciable benefit was derived from asceticism, the reply was, there is no merit in almsgiving, sacrifice, or offering, no result or ripening of good or evil deeds. There is no passing from this world to the next. No benefit accrues from service of mother or father. There is no afterlife. And there is no ascetics or brahmanas who have reached the perfection on the right path, and who, having known and experienced this world and the world beyond, publish their knowledge. Man is formed of 4 elements. When he dies, earth returns to the aggregate of earth, water to water, fire to fire, and air to air, while the senses vanish into space. 4 men with beer take up their corpse. They gossip about the dead man as far as the burning ground, where his bones turn the color of dove's wing, and his sacrifices ends in ashes. They are fools who preach almsgiving and those who maintain the existence of immaterial categories, speak vain and lying nonsense. When the body dies, both fool and wise alike are cut off and perish. They do not survive after death. So the earliest notions about the materialism we have from Ajita Kesakambli. When he was asked about the worth of the ascetic life or good deeds, his reply was that There is no use of any of such things, no use of in the almsgiving, neither there is a life after. So for him, everything ended up in this present world where you are living, and all the phenomenal world that is around you, that is the only reality that is existing. And he gives an example of 4 people carrying the corpse of a dead person and then going to the crematorium or cremating place, and they gossip till they reach the place where they have to cremate the body. And Ajit Kesakambli says that with that cremation, everything ends there, nothing more. So when the body dies, both fool and wise alike are cut off and perish. They do not survive after death. Even though he was a materialist, that is Ajit Kesakambli, he was not running after material luxury. As his name suggests, he wore a blanket, kambla, made of hair, kesa. Buddha opined that this blanket must have been very uncomfortable as it became colder in winter and hotter in summer. Materialism has been known in India by names of Brahaspatya, Lokayata, or Charvaka philosophy. So 3 names are given to the materialism. Materialism has been known in India by the names of Brahaspatya, Lokayata, or Charvaka philosophy. The name Brahaspatya means a philosophical school founded by Brahaspati, the teacher of the gods. It is pretty strange that materialism was called by this name, as the Indian materialists did not believe in gods or any supernatural powers. Brahaspati, having become Sukra, brought forth that false knowledge for the safety of Indra and for the destruction of Asuras. By it they show that good is evil and that evil is good. They say that we ought to ponder on the new law which upsets the Veda and other sacred books. Therefore, let no one ponder on that false knowledge. It is wrong, it is, as it were, barren. According to this passage, what we have heard, Brahaspati deliberately taught a false doctrine to the forces of evil, leading to their destruction. It stands to reason then that the name Brahaspatya was given to the materialistic philosophy by its competitors, who held the opinion that materialistic philosophy was a false doctrine. Over time, the name stuck and Indian materialists were known by a name that they were never have approved. The name Lokayata for materialistic philosophy seems to be more appropriate. Loka means world, and thus Lokayata means a philosophy that is focused on the worldly affairs. The most popular name for materialistic philosophy, though, was Charvaka, which seems to be based on the name of a person named Charvaka. We don't have any information about the life of Charvaka when he lived. Mahabharata talks about a demon named Charvaka, but there is no indication that this Charvaka had anything to do with the Charvaka philosophy. Charvaka demon is described as a friend of Duryodhana. Charvaka started saying bad words to Yudhishthira after his victory over Kauravas and perished during the confrontation with the priests. The original text of Charvaka philosophy was called Charvaka Sutra. Unfortunately, this text is lost. There were many commentaries written on the Charvaka Sutra. 4 known commentaries of Charvaka Sutra were Kamblaswa Sutra, Purandara, and Avidhakarna and Udbhata. Unfortunately, most of these commentaries have been lost and only some fragments are available. The most important source of information for Charvaka philosophy is the text Sarva Darshana Samgraha, written by illustrious scholars Madhava and Sayana in the 14th century. First chapter of Sarva Darshana Samgraha summarizes the Charvaka philosophy as understood by Madhava and Sayana, who were not followers of this philosophy themselves. Madhava, also called Madhavarya, Madhavacharya, or Madhavamatya, was the minister in the court of Sri Bukkaraja of Vijayanagara Empire. Madhava composed many texts, some of them with the assistance of brother Sayana, such as the commentaries on the Rig Veda, Aitreya Brahmana, and Taittreya Samhita. Madhava calls himself Abhinava Kalidasa or New Kalidasa in his work on Shankara Vijaya on the glory of the great philosopher Adi Shankaracharya. Madhava's other books written without the assistance of Sayana include Kala Madhava, a treatise on Hindu calendar; Acharya Madhava, a treatise on the practice of Brahmanas; and Vyavahara Madhava, a treatise on the law. Sarva Darshana Samgraha, which means a compilation of all philosophy, attributes the authorship of the text to Sayana Madhava, which means the text was written by both Sayana and Madhava. So we get a glimpse of what is this Charvaka philosophy or pure materialism. As it is said, unfortunately, the original text is no more, it is lost. What we have is the commentary written by great scholars. And among them is the one book that is the Sarva Darshana Samgraha, that is the compilation of all philosophy, and it is the authorship is attributed to Sayana, Madhava, both of them together, who has compiled the philosophies of that time. Some other texts also contain information about Charvaka philosophy. Dakshinarjan Shastri compiled the Charvaka fragments in the book of Charvaka Shasti, which, as the title suggests, contains 60 verses. These 60 verses are taken from the following text. Verses 1 to 47 from Nasidhaya Chaitram by Sri Harsha, verses 48 to 55 and 57 to 59 from Sarva Darshana Samgraha by Sayana and Madhava, verses 56 from Vidanamadratini by Chiranjeevi Bhattacharya, and verses 60 from Sarva Darshana Samuchaya by Haribhadra. Since the information about Charvaka philosophy comes from sources which were generally not sympathetic to Charvakas, researchers are not unanimous regarding what constituted original Charvaka philosophy and what has been added to malign the Charvakas. A critical study of this matter has resulted in 2 other compilations of Charvaka philosophy by researchers Namani and Bhattacharya. The main beliefs Charvakas are listed below.